Welcome. In this video we're going to be taking a look at Medjed. I'm not quite sure of the pronunciation as an Egyptian name and I don't speak Egyptian. Anyway, she is a legendary grade support class Elune. Looking at her base stats at 6 star, she has decent amount of HP, her attack is okay, her physical and magic defense are not too bad but still a little on the lower side, and her attack speed though is quite high, which does help her out in moving turns. As we progress through the Transcendence up to her max, she ends up at a 53.3k HP max, 9.2k attack, and 5.1 to 5.3k magic and physical defense respectively. Her attack speed is still at 112, which does allow her to move quickly so that she can get turns fast to apply her buffs for your team, which does benefit her and your team. Moving to her skills, her first skill, Tranquility, is a single target damage skill that does basic magic damage. Nothing too spectacular about it. It is a standard magic skill and it can be attacked to any enemy on there. Going to her special skill, Harpy's Blessing, this skill is one of her buff skills. As it only takes 2 souls to cast, it is a skill that can be easily spammed and it has a multitude of benefits. This skill casts an enhanced buff on a single ally that increases the damage that they do by 10%, reduces the damage they receive by 15%, and increases any healing that they receive by 25% for 3 turns. This is at the base level. As the skill is leveled up, those buffs increase to a damage increase of 20%, reduced damage by 20%, and increased healing by 50% for 4 turns, meaning that with this skill being able to last for 4 turns, she can cycle this onto multiple allies and still keep every one of them with this buff on, allowing them to do more damage. Her ultimate skill, which is a damaging skill and a buff skill, it is an AoE damage skill that does magic damage based on her attack and the target's magic defense. So the higher the magic defense of the target, the more damage this skill will do. The buff that it does increases the resistance rate of all allies by 30% for 3 turns at level 1. As the skill is leveled up though, the base damage based on her attack does go up. The magic defense is still based on just 100% of the target's magic defense, and the buff resistance rate does go up to 50% for 4 turns. This means that she can keep your allies at a high resistance rate from getting debuffed or controlled at a very high rate for a long period of time. This skill also takes only 4 souls, so it is not too high on soul consumption, meaning that you can use it at a frequent amount, as it also provides some damage, and that damage can be high if the target has high magic defense. This skill is also good at killing targets. Her first passive skill is one where she gains 1 soul when an ally with her buff defeats an enemy. So having her move quickly to buff your team means that if anybody attacks and kills something on their turn, then you gain 1 soul from that. This is a good way to increase your soul count quickly by just use of her passive and killing targets. Her second passive is there, and this one is something that you have to be aware of and you need to pay attention to when you're constructing your teams. If there are at least 2 allies on your team that have more current HP, not max, then you will not become a target of attacks or counterattacks, meaning that the enemy cannot target you directly, though you still can be hit with AoE attacks, so you need to keep that in mind. she is not invisible to them, which means she still gets targeted by AoE attacks. She just cannot be selected as the primary target of such attacks, nor can she be selected as a single target until you have at least the other allies with lower HP than she has. So try to make sure that you have somewhat tanky allies, and all of which or most of which have higher HP than she does. So going with an HP on her for her offhand might not always be the best thing to do. Her third passive, which was recently changed, this one provides any ally that has died while they had her buff, they will immediately get revived with 30% of her HP, of the max HP of her, when she gets a turn. This does have a cooldown of 3 turns, but if they have the buff, they will get revived once she gets a turn, and this is not on cooldown. So she can be used as a reviver to help assist you, as well as a buffer to help keep your team buffed up. Moving on to the skill gems for her skills, her primary skill is just a damaging skill, so going with the recommended amount of skill gems is not a bad idea, as it provides additional magic damage and increased chance to crit. The bonus effect that you get from using the recommended ones is a rather low 5% chance of restoring 1 soul, but it is still a chance and it can still be helpful. As the skill, the addition one, the orange gem, could be replaced with more magic damage. You could go that route and then have additional damage on the skill, but having the chance for the crit and the chance for restoring a soul is also not a bad idea to have. More souls at any rate is always a good thing. Her special skill, as it is a buff, the yellow gems are recommended. The only reason I would recommend getting this entire set here, going with the yellow violent, would be because of the bonus, as this skill will heal 3% of the target's max HP, which means it can be used as a small heal, but it is still a heal, and since it is a very spammable skill at only 2 souls, it is something you can use to help her provide additional healing to your team while providing that buff. The other gem, if you did not care for the healing and you have significant other ways of healing your team, then another yellow gem to increase the percentage buff that she gives with the skill would be the other viable option for this. Her special skill, as it is an attack skill, it is used for the blue gem to provide more damage. This skill also recommended is the orange gem for the crit chance, to provide the additional chance of critting on the enemies so that you can kill them faster, and the violet gem for the speed increase. The bonus of this one is only a 10% chance of increasing the maximum HP of allies by 10%. It is a rather low chance, but it is a chance, and no other skill gems really provide anything better to use here, so having an additional chance of something that can benefit you isn't always bad, as there are no other good viable alternatives for having this on there. When you go to the dimensional slate for her, which I do not have unlocked as she is not +1 on my account, things to focus on would be her attack to provide additional damage and heals, but also you would want to go for things like physical and magic defense. HP doesn't necessarily need to be a primary focus of her, as you still need her to have a lower HP than the rest of your team, at least 2 other members, so that she will not be targeted by an enemy or a boss in a fight. That way she is only targeted through indirect AoE attacks. So for gear, I would not necessarily recommend having an HP on the slot. She can provide many utilities as a support, so going with a support set would be good to have, anything that can help her. And in my case, this was just an extra set of gear that I have, as I do not use her too much yet, as she is not transcended at all. Later, I would go for more of a support type role, going for higher attack on her weapon, keeping an attack on her offhand, but then also going for a faster set and potentially a corrupted set to allow her to help me get souls to the rest of my team. Overall, she is a good support Elune. She does provide a lot of buffs for your team. She is also a reviver, so she can revive your team in case one of them dies, including potentially your tank or something else. The revive is based on a 30% of your HP, so you still need to provide another healer on your team to make sure that they can heal and keep your team alive. She would not be a good replacement for such a support such as Weiwei, as Weiwei's does provide more damage mitigation and more attack buff. She would, however, though, work well alongside of Weiwei, in that she provides a buff to your team or to a single Elune on your team to provide more damage, as well as providing them with additional healing. And she can also provide a revive so that she can revive a team member. As she can't be targeted right away, it wouldn't be possible for the enemy team to kill the reviver, her, right off the bat to prevent any such revives. They would have to get the rest of your team down low enough in HP that she would be able to be targeted first. And if they're using AoE attacks to do that, her HP would also be decreasing at the same time, making it even more difficult for them to accomplish that. Overall, she is good. She is a good support Elune. She does provide a lot of utility in both PvP and PvE aspects of the game, and she is something that can be used for some of the boss stages if you're going for the daily quest that they have and you need another support Elune. Then you can bring her alongside of Weiwei to increase the damage that you do and to provide a revive to your team in case you can't bring healers. That's going to be it for this one. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I will answer them as soon as possible. Thank you.